We are live. Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Love relaunch. I'm so excited to be back with everyone. I have missed you all so much. I know it has been forever since you've seen my beautiful face, but I am back. I am here. I'm spreading love, and I got something amazing today for everyone. Byron Jamal, he has joined me today on our platform to discuss his special love story. Before he began, I'm gonna drop some more knowledge about him real fast. He is a former pastor turned love guru, 7-time bestseller author. I didn't know that. His latest book is How to Heal a World, which is interesting. So we're gonna dive into that really quickly. He wrote this book because he recognized his own sexual hangups were harming him and himself. He decided to dig deeper. He decided to abandon the conventional views on sex and sexuality, which is amazing because I avoid any conventional views of anything. So, further ado, Mr. Jamal, Byron Jamal, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Tasha, for having me.
Yes, I know we've been trying to get this together for quite some time, so I am really excited to have you on to share your love story on all of this juiciness we got going on. First thing first.
Yeah, former pastor. I grew up in the church, and it was a natural progression, I think, for a young black boy who's a little articulate, likes to read and can speak a little bit. The two paths were, doctor, lawyer, or three paths, a doctor, lawyer, or preacher. So that was kind of pushed into that.
Okay. So you found one behind that? What's up, Brandon?
No, actually, my parents were newly converted when I was adopted, so it was more of their excitement about joining a religion as a whole, and I just happened to find my footing and then find a safe space in the church early on, creating some identity there.
So as you found your footing, you found something else outside of it
Eventually, yes.
So what led to you not being a pastor anymore and diving into this new adventure of a love guru?
So for me, I was preaching, and in the pulpit, there are certain restraints that you have to give on topics, certain things you can't say, even if they will be helpful to the people who are listening. And so when I was one-on-one in the office, I realized there was more dynamic and effective change in people. It was happening quicker, and it was lasting longer because the conversations were more vulnerable, they were more transparent, and they were more raw. And I wanted that same thing for the pulpit, but that's not something that unfortunately most congregations can handle based on how religion is set up now. So I decided to step out of the role completely and do what I call parking lot preaching, helping people still in a spiritual way, but I do it in a way that I feel is practical and relational.
I It's so much about the church I can speak on. I grew up as a Catholic, so you know how that goes.
Oh my,
yeah. So I completely, and I think I strayed away from the church because of their traditional views versus like the conventional views, and it's like this is not adding up anymore. I understand how it went like ages ago, but now today's society, like, no, that's not right. So
it's not, and it's gotta be relevant. It's gotta be applicable to what people actually need. And I feel like we're in a space right now where, while the church has its merits, it has things that it does well. We just slowly have seen how the church has lost its influence in the society. I mean, it used to be a place where people came for everything. I mean, literally services, and now it has literally become just going for service.
yeah.
So it's a sad state of where it is, but That's why I think that there are people who need to, if they feel that urge to step out and do work that doesn't restrict or bind them by the laws of religion.
So this newest book, How to Heal a Hoe.
Mm.
First, how did you even come up with this title? I mean, it's very catchy because I'm like, wait a minute. Let me get my book so I can start diving into this. But I mean, I'm just curious. Like,
It's actually funny. It is a catchy title. I mean, I'll take it out with me. Like I was at a brunch with a fellow author the other day, and we had our books we exchanged, and the the server came over and was like, "What is that?" Then I had two more servers come over. Then I had a manager come. Yeah, so it is a catchy title, but more than the title being catchy, the information in there is really vital. Like, as somebody who went through feeling like a hoe and really dealing with that, and for me to be a man writing this, because typically we say the word hoe, we think woman, because that's
right,
what society has put on us. But what I realize is that a hoe is anyone who really thinks in their mind that they're a hoe. And hoe has certain, stigma attached. It has certain liabilities attached. So if you think you're a hoe, typically you're thinking that love is not possible for you, because how can a hoe find love? If you think you're a hoe, how can anyone really respect you, because you've done too many hoe activities? If you really think you're a hoe, how can anyone want to be with you long term? Because how can you turn a hoe into a husband or a housewife? And so I'm in a space now where I had to write this book, because as I was journeying through my healing process, I was finding that there were more people, as I looked around, people that I was dating, people that I was having sex with, people that I had sex with, my clients especially, who were going through the same thing. They were, all of it helped me realize that there needed to be something that was applicable, that people could actually read, digest, and help them change their life. But the book is, as it says in the subtitle, a loving self-help guide. So it actually is teaching you how to heal without even having to go to a therapist. Now, I believe in therapy, but there are things you can do in your everyday life that will help you to heal from sexual stigma, shame, and trauma.
so I found it interesting because it is some parts of the book, and I'm definitely going to read this book because I can totally relate 100%. When you said that you really had to find yourself sexually,
Hmm.
so dive more deeper into that.
Absolutely. For us, we're really just told, especially for those who grew up in church, you're told that you marry the opposite sex, you have sex once you get married, and that's it. That's all the instructions. That's it. That's the rule book.
Right.
And so anything else, because relationships, we know, are so dynamic, they're so fluid, there's so many things that can happen. To have only those two answers, that you marry the opposite sex and that you have sex after, if that's all you have to offer, it's dangerous for a whole culture and community of people to be operating on just two tidbits of advice.
Right.
And so for me, in my sexual discovery, I always knew I had an affinity for women, but I also knew I had an affinity for men. So for me, I was taught early on. It was so funny. I had a pastor that became a mentor of mine early on, who said, "Byron, I don't care if you like men or whatever, but we need strong black men in the community to raise strong black families." And so basically, what he was telling me was, forego your sexuality and what you're feeling inside, and mask it, hide it. But that's what we do in our culture all around,
Right. Yeah.
whether it's self-pleasuring, whether it's sex with someone else that's happy, healthy, consenting. It's another form of expression. Look, we are as much sexual beings as we are spiritual beings, as we are emotional beings, as we are intellectual beings. And to deny yourself any part of yourself is not honoring the full being that you are.
So why do you think that people just are not as honest with themselves when it comes to sexual identity? I know, and especially in my experience, is men more so than women, because women all day long, and I know that society, they look, if I mean, say for instance, and I hate titles. I hate
Yeah.
bisexual, heterosexual, all of that kind of stuff. Because I call myself like a free spirit. It's like
Yeah.
who I'm attracted to at the time. Like I always like I think I learned that about myself a couple of years ago. But for women, it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I can deal with men and women, but men is like,
Well, it's a pull. It's a pull on for women. You're already women, so the femininity of being able to be fluid is natural. I mean, I think about the intimacy that women have with each other and the conversations that you all have about periods and
right,
menstruation and other body issues that are happening. So there's a level of connectivity amongst women that almost makes it, why not? We getting dressed together, we naked together.
right,
Men outside of the gym bathroom are never encouraged to do any of that. So there's little conversation, so it makes it already taboo. But you're women, so men, anything with another man is going to appear gay, and then gay automatically means feminine, even though that's not true. it,
oh,
it is stated that way, and so you're less of a man, and that is where the shaming comes in. That's why men can't be as fluid in their sexuality as women, because of that little piece right there that says immediately if you are exploring yourself with the same sex as a man, then you must be more feminine, and you instantly must be gay, which of course then again is not true, because you
right,
can be other forms of that.
right. So when you was writing How to Heal a Hoe, were you healing in the process of healing? Because I know with me, I'm in the process of writing my book as well.
Yeah.
And I got into the point that I thought I was healed. And then when I started writing, it's like, nah, like some
Woo.
stuff just resurfaced. And I'm like, I'm questioning myself about my healing process now. Like, am I really healed? Like, why am I feeling this way about certain parts of this novel? So,
Trust me, I get it. So
yeah.
for me, I was writing it from a space. I literally gotten out of a relationship that was about 2.5 years. Really, really amazing person, and we separated amicably. We just had some issues sexually, and we didn't know how to communicate it. There was a lot of sexual secrets. There was some cheating involved, and so I got to a place when we ended that relationship that I was like, I've been a hoe with someone that I love. So I really got to address this thing about what I'm doing with my life, and knowing that certain activities that may be fun or pleasurable weren't serving me based on the type of life I said I wanted to live. And so I wanted to see how my living could align. And then I started getting into this work of healing, because I realized there were some things that I hadn't really addressed about my past, being molested, being in an abusive relationship. There were things related to my heart that I hadn't really dealt with. And so that was trauma, which are really, trauma is just really unprocessed experiences. And so when I was realizing that I hadn't processed them, I was going through the writing process, and I started, and it really healed me. And so, as this was the longest book that I've ever written. Like normally my books I can write within 4 months. This one took an entire year, and really a year and a month.
So I don't feel
It
bad.
literally, yeah, like literally a year and a month, because I was literally living through each chapter as I was kind of getting into it. In the beginning, I make the first is broken into 4 parts. The first part is really making an argument for what sex is supposed to be, what a hoe is, and so I was really defining it. I was being a little more academic, because I needed to define it for me. I wanted
Right.
to really understand what I was doing and why I was doing it, and what in the culture was making me think a certain way. And so I made it very clear in the book. And then I pulled in some of my clients. I started getting clients that were having sexual issues. It was like the universe was just bringing me all the pieces I needed for the book. And then as I moved into the next part, I talked about, started that path of healing. And I was doing that work. And so it really was exciting to see how the book was breathing and living through me as I was writing it. So I'm really excited for how it's already, for those who have started reading it, For those who actually, I had a team of 50 people that read it in advance, and the feedback has been phenomenal. I'm so excited to see how it's going to change our community, because I say, if you can change a hoe, if you can heal a hoe, you'll heal a community. If you can heal a community, then you'll change the world. So I really believe that we'll have this will be the start of some great conversations around sex and sexuality.
Oh, definitely it will. So what is your definition of hoe? What is a hoe to you? Because I don't get it. I know I had some hoe ways. I
Yeah.
mean, but and then I want to touch more on how do you talk to your partner about your sexual needs? Like,
Oh, that's
you be
good.
a hoe for your partner? I mean, like,
So those are two good questions. So for the first one, a hoe, of course, we have like, in the book I list out like 6 different ways hoe can be used, whether as an expression of endearment, hey ho, how you doing? You know, hey
right.
girlfriend, hey boyfriend, or it can be like, that's a hoe, or I was a hoe the other night. So it can be used multiple ways. But the real truth of what it means is that when you feel like you're a hoe, you have sexually limiting things that are limiting the fullness of your life. So when you take on a whole energy, it means that because of the sex I've done or the sex I've thought about doing, I am now less deserving of amazing love. And
Mm,
that's anyone who feels that way about anything they've done sexually is a hoe. And so bringing it back to where somebody can feel like the things I've done made me who I am. I actually have a whole chapter right at the end of the book called Loving a Healed Hoe. And it teaches
oh,
people how to love someone who has more of an active sexual past than them. And in that, I actually talk about being able to understand that if you take away any of your partner's sexual past, you're changing them. The person that you fell in love with is not the person they would be unless they had all of those experiences that shaped them, that taught them what they wanted. And ultimately, a person who has a sexual past, has had sexual activities, has learned more about their body, more about what they like and don't like, and can better communicate that. So you actually have a better relationship overall because they're more experienced.
I definitely agree. And I do know, and I think I was a guest on one of my sister podcasts a week or two ago,
Hmm.
and they was asking me like, what do you think the most one of the most important things to keep a relationship going? And I was like, intimacy. Because and then I said, people don't even want to touch on that subject for some reason.
Hmm.
Like, sex is such a dirty word. Or if my thing is this, if you can be with a person and do all of these acts, why can't you discuss what you like versus what you don't like I'm really
Yeah.
confused about that. Intimacy to me is a big part, because if you don't have that, then you have somebody going out here in these streets being a ho on you because you're not satisfying them at home.
Yes.
So
You'll share your social security number, your joint bank accounts. They'll have full access to your house when you're not there. But when it
right.
comes to conversations around your body and what your desires, it's like then you clam up. You can be at my house while I'm at work for 8-9 hours, but I don't trust you with this part of me, the body that is leaving and coming back to you. Like it doesn't make sense, but it does, based on how our culture has identified sex as something so shameful. I mean, think about this. Outside of marriage, sex is immediately cast into something that we don't want to discuss. We have to label it with like birds and bees. Like we have to give it, animal names in order for us to even have basic conversations about it for children. It's sad. So it makes a child think about early on when you knew that your parents felt awkward talking about it, or your teachers felt awkward talking about it, that made it automatically weird. Like it made it weird. So when you had this urge to touch yourself or to explore your body, now that became weird. It became weird. It wasn't weird when you felt the urge to scratch your head. It wasn't weird
Right.
when you blink. It's not weird. But suddenly touching your parts suddenly is so weird. And I said this on I wish I would have put it in the book, but I said it on a podcast the other day that none of your parts are private. You don't
Right.
have any private parts to yourself. But we have made it such that we have private parts even on our own body. And so I think that's why it's so difficult for people to have those conversations. How can I have a conversation with you about my desire when I have struggled talking to myself about what I desire?
Or they don't even know how to like. I know I was talking to one of my clients and she was like, she never had an orgasm. I said, how is that even possible?
Wouldn't
Like,
know where to begin. Some just have no idea. Do you know there's a statistic right now out that says that Americans specifically are the least, one of the least sexual countries in the world right now, and even in marriages, that the average American is having one out of four is one out of four. Now catch this: one out of four people have not had sex, any kind of sex, in a year. And yeah, it's like it's becoming a thing, and I think that's because we have attached so much morality
right.
to sex. Like, you, if you do this, then you're good. If you do that, then you're bad. We have attached so much of that that now I'd rather just not do anything because I don't want to be considered bad at all.
But there is also studies showing that orgasm keep the stress away. So then you have all these people walking around all stressed, all uptight, all everything.
Sex. The act of sex is an exercise as well. So
Right.
you do cardiovascular work, but also the release of when you do orgasm or have some kind of sensation that way, you actually are releasing amazing chemicals into your body that you're right, that act, the endorphins that give you positive, pure energy. But also you release a lot of other chemicals that are helping you to fight off things. It helps your immune system. Like, there are studies that say that sex is one of the best things that you can do to actually help your body feel at a state of peace and actually work in its best, highest function.
Well, I can agree with that because I don't know if I can go like a month. So that's why I was like, am I a hoe? I don't
Yeah, I need
know.
a touch up. Hello?
I know.
Need an oil change over here.
So, I know that you use some of your spiritual practices into this book. Can you touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I can't help but be who I am, and it's a part of what I do, and it's what makes me unique in the dating coach space, that
Right.
I am so spiritual. So you'll find that even from the very beginning, the first chapter talks about how God made us, and how, for example, how God is sexual. That if God created sexual beings, God must have a sexual mind. That
Mhm.
in order for something to create something, it has to be on that thing's mind to create it. And so the fact that God created us not just with sex, but also pleasure from sex. So you talk about God wants us to have pleasurable encounters with sex. Like, there's no, I mean, there would be no other reason. Like, I don't get
Right.
pleasure from rubbing right here. I just don't, I don't get that. I don't get pleasure rubbing right here. That don't do anything for me. So the fact that those are very sensitive parts that allow you to experience extreme ecstasy says that God did that intentionally. So I fused that kind of stuff throughout the entire Bible, throughout the entire book. I literally have examples of hoes in the Bible that were handled by
Oh,
God.
okay.
There's a prophet that actually was instructed to marry a prostitute. There was a woman who had had multiple husbands that Jesus met at a well. There was a hoe, actual prostitute, that saved a whole slew of amazing men to allow God's people to advance into a city. Like, God has used holes throughout the whole of creation. And so learning what it means to be a sexual being versus someone who is ashamed of who they are. All of these people felt shame in some way, but were vindicated and validated by God. And that's what I want for people with this book.
That's deep. I'm gonna have to get this book. I swear. I've just been collecting books because I don't know about you. When I'm writing, I can't read other people's stuff until I'm done. So what
Yes.
I do, oh, okay, I'm not the only
No,
one.
you're not.
So
Yeah.
so I will like buy and support every book and just have it in a pile. And then when I'm done, I'll be like, okay, I can get to this now. because I don't want any
I'm telling
distractions.
you, I was kicking out. I told all my followers that I'm not writing books for a few years. I've done this is my seventh one, and I've been kicking out like two a year, minimum two a year. So I
Wow.
was like, I'm that, yeah. So I was like, I have my library right now of books that I feel like I wanted to get everything out of my head. I have my
Okay.
self-love book. I have a novel. I have a book on that I call my love Bible that goes from singleness to marriage and divorce.
Oh,
I have a book that deals with self-love and affirmation. But so I feel like, this is taking me right where I want to be.
right.
Now that I have some of the foundational stuff out the way, I'm able to now deal with some of the niche topics that are so necessary. And so, yeah, I couldn't read anything else. I barely read my own stuff. I really wanted some fresh insight and perspective. And my voice in this book is probably one of the most unique for myself that out of all my books.
And which book was that?
This How to Hello is the most fresh and unique perspective
Okay.
and voice that I have out of all of them.
So which one are you the most proud of right now out of all seven of them?
Honestly, it's a tie because while I love all of my books, honestly, they really are come from a place of love. I love my book on self love, Seven Ultimate Steps to Self Love. And the reason why I love that book so much is because it really helps a person to get stabilized in their life. You can't do anything great without self love. You can't do anything amazing, whether it's a relationship, holding down a good job, whether it's doing a task that you love. You can't do anything without amazing self love. And so that book is so foundational. It's like, if somebody asked me what should I read first out of anything, I would say that book.
But
But now that I have How to Heal a Hoe, I did incorporate two chapters that talk about self love and the power of self love and how to find self love, but also body love. And so learning how to love your body in a real authentic way and the gift that it is. So it now has that component in the book. So it's a little more like maybe How to Heal a Hoe is now edging out all my others.
I love
It's
that
my new
you
baby. It's my new baby.
I love that you touch on loving your body. So my platform, I use it. So I first began it because I'm a domestic violence survivor. So
Mm,
like going through everything, going through the healing, the therapy and everything, I realized that I had lacked self-love the entire time. I did not love myself. I did not like appreciate myself. I did not see what other people see. Like people be
yeah.
like, "Oh, you so beautiful." I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like I always like downplayed everything about me. And I was like, I need to like be that voice for other women. Like you have to like really love yourself first. I hate when single women be out here like, oh well, I can't find a man, I can't do this, I can't do that. But what do you know what you want? Because you don't know what you want. I always preach about like because I was divorced. Well, I did get divorced, and then we're dating again. That's another story. But during that time of separation and divorce, like I really had to find myself. I did not know myself outside of marriage and being a mom.
Yeah.
So I had to start dating myself. Like I took trips, I bought myself stuff because as a mom, like you always making sure your kids are good and never yourself. So I
Mm,
pay more attention to myself. And then that's when I start really truly healing from everything. That's how I
yeah.
that's me and ex-husband dating again. Because it took a lot for us to get back to that point. But I think really self-love is the key. And then like with a lot of women, because I'm 40, so a lot of women in my age bracket, they out here trying to get their body done now, do this, do that,
Right.
because
Right.
they're not
All of the
happy with
above.
it.
Yeah.
But then we got Lizzo out here living her best life, showing
Hello.
us like no matter what, I'm gonna love me. So, and I think that's important because we look at these IG models and it's like, okay, that's what men want, but that's not what really men want.
Yeah, and a deeper part of that I've even found is through writing the book, and it really like illuminated this point for me that when you don't really love your body, you don't trust it as much. So when your body's trying to speak to you, because your body has natural intuition, so that speaking is an inner voice in
Mhm.
you. And when it's speaking and saying, hey, go here, hey, not this person, hey, talk to them, hey,
Right.
you don't want to listen because you don't trust your body, you don't love you. So imagine that somebody comes in your life and you don't trust them. It's not likely that you will truly want to hear their opinion. And the same
Right.
is true with your body. When you don't really appreciate it or love it, and you're feeling anxious about it, then you're less likely to listen to its truth when it speaks. And so there's something that happens within us, that we have that self doubt, that we question what we're feeling, and so that's where that comes from. It's because that self love is not foundationally there. That body love is not there, and so building that up helps you to trust more, so that you don't attract the type of people who aren't good for you, so that you can have the love that makes sense for your life. It's almost impossible to do it when you are in a space where literally you don't love yourself.
Absolutely. And when you don't love yourself, you attract the wrong people. Because I love when you said that, I forgot what you just said about trusting.
Yeah.
And I just did a clip about that, because so many people don't trust other people, and
Mm-mm.
it begins with trusting yourself. And I know, and I'm a person that have really lived through the me not loving anything about me, especially my body. And when I
Yeah.
was in that space, I could not give 100% to my partner, which led to
It's
so
almost
many other
impossible.
issues. Yeah, it does. And I don't think people realize that, like, if you doubt in yourself and you're not really happy with yourself, then you're not going to be happy with other people.
Mm-mm.
So you need to change what you're not happy about.
Completely. Completely. You do. You do. Yeah.
So, love guru, what is your love life looking at like nowadays?
Well, I'm in a space now after a little over a year of being single. I am in a space where I'm, dating. I say that, singleness is a phase, and that's part of one of the books I wrote, Successful Love, where dating singleness is a phase where you are actively and openly focused on just you, and that you're
Hmm.
not even open to dating. But when you enter into the dating phase, you're still single, but you're open to the possibilities of what love can bring. And that's the phase I'm in right now, where I am open to it. I have some people that are on my radar, that I'm giving time and attention to, but I'm the one that teaches people to move slow, so I take my own advice.
Okay.
And I always say there's no rush if it's forever. There's no rush, and love is not a destination. It's a journey, and as long as you keep enjoying being with somebody, I feel like people will weed themselves out in your life. If they stick around and you keep having a good time, then it just kind of makes sense to go the next step.
So, are you a serial dater?
I'm a person who can date multiple people, but for me, the level of consistency and intimacy that I have with them, I'm fully in, all in, like with anybody I meet. So it doesn't matter whether it's somebody I'm dating or a friend or a neighbor. I'm all in. I'm gonna give you everything, because I don't believe in holding back love from people. But what I do give is I test, I give, and then I assess, basically.
Okay.
So the energy that I give out, I see how it's reciprocated, and I then process if this is what I want to receive back.
That's
And
called
that's how people,
acting accordingly. I
yeah,
call that
absolutely.
acting accordingly.
Yeah. So instead of, because what people end up doing is they end up saying, well, I gave all this and I'm not going to give it no more. But you're not your true self if you don't give all. So you never really know who you are with somebody until you give your true self with them, to know how they react to your true self. Which is why a lot of people get in bad relationships, because they gave like 50% of who they really were. And when they finally gave the 100, was like, whoa,
Yeah,
like,
that was too much. That was an overkill.
exactly. And so you got to give that up front, so people can, if the person is receptive to that. Once you see, like, okay, they're matching my interests, they're showing the same level of concern, their level of communication is where I want it to be, then you can slowly say, okay, these other people aren't matching it the way I want, because I'm starting to see more of what I want in the person that I in this person and less of what I wanted in these others. So let me give more time and attention to this individual. The older I get, the more I do this work, I realize that love is less about what you like about people and more about what you don't like but can handle. It's more about
Mm,
the things that you experience with them and you realize I could deal with this forever. It's things that you're not trying to change about them. It's things that you're willing to embrace and accept. It's things that you realize when they bring you consistent joy, when they make you feel peaceful, when they inspire you. Like these things matter so much more than their qualities. I would rather have people who don't make as much to me, someone who doesn't have all the nice stuff, but literally just makes me feel good. Because if I'm in the energy where I feel amazing, all that stuff will flow anyway.
right. And I totally agree. We was just talking about standards versus expectations, and everyone have standards, which I totally agree. You should have your basic
Yeah,
standards of
yeah.
what you want and which you're gonna be able to tolerate. But then these expectations start creeping in, and you expect someone to reach these high
Mm,
expectations, and I think everyone want that fairy tale ending, which we know is non-existent, is all what you make as a fairy
yeah.
tale. Because everybody think that, oh, I'm going to find this perfect person, but what is perfect?
Well, one thing that I have learned is that love is one of those things that, you can say, well, I'm ready for love. I'm going to go get me some love, but that's out of your control. Um, you have to just be open and pray that you attract it in the right way and with the right person. So, as much as you say, oh, I'm ready now and let's get it and it's going to, you don't really know until it comes. And so that's why you have to stay ready. You have to be ready at all times. You have to stay ready to be ready. And when it comes to really managing your heart in these kind of situations, you have to be open to the possibility that it may take a while. A big part of this is people wanting what they aren't. And I think that's why a lot of relationships
Oh
fail.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
people really want it. Like I had someone call it me and wanted to start coaching services with me, and they were saying, Byron, I just keep on attracting inconsistent people. Inconsistent, just men just are inconsistent. Oh my God, they're so inconsistent. And so I said, well, beloved, where are you inconsistent in your life?
Mm,
And she was like, oh, she did it
right.
like, oh,
No.
and she started thinking, oh, well, I'm inconsistent here, I'm inconsistent there. And I said, so here's a thing you might want to consider. You love yourself even with your inconsistencies. Why is it so difficult for you to love someone else with theirs? So you have two options and only two options. You can change your inconsistencies and become more consistent. So you begin attracting consistent people because you attract what you are. And if you're attracting inconsistency, it's because you have some inconsistency in your life and people are a mirror for you. So you are literally getting mirrored back just what you are. And so they're just a reflection of who you are. That's all. So you're upset with them because you're really upset with yourself. But,
That's deep.
yeah, hello. And then, or second option. So that's one. But second option is you can love people where they are and find out why you can love yourself and not love others who are dealing with the
Mm,
same thing you deal with. Um, that's the only two options. And so then she had homework to do. She had to decide which path she wanted to take. Did she want to keep being an inconsistent person and deal with the inconsistencies in others? Or keep complaining about it? Or did she want to go ahead and heal her inconsistencies, something that she seriously was wanting to fix clearly? She complained about her being inconsistent. And so go ahead and deal with it and then go find love. I just believe you can find it before you get fixed. I believe you can have it before you get healed. And it's one of those things where you don't have to be 100 to find love. You just have to have a 100 heart that's open enough to be loved and be loving.
do you think that people that are healing can find some type of solace together?
Yes.
They're both on their healing journey, and they
Yeah.
somehow find themselves,
Well,
find each other.
the illusion is that someone's not on their healing journey. Healing is not a final,
Yeah, it's
receipt.
no end to it.
There is no end to your healing, because there are things that the more you heal, the more you unearth, the more you uncover, the more you realize things that were still buried, smaller, micro things, minor things, but still things. Things that you tucked away in your memory, experiences that you didn't realize impacted you, but now that you're more mature about a topic, now you realize how it actually impacted you, and you didn't think about it before, but now you realize it. And so when you heal, you're always healing. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Being on the journey of healing is enough to start loving and being loved, because a lot of people aren't. A lot of people aren't even healing at all. They've become stagnant and complacent and just bury everything and just build houses and lives on top of all the stuff that they buried. But that stuff comes back to haunt you eventually. It shows up in everything that you do. I talk about in your love life. Love is like a plant, a plant that is rooted in soil, and all the stuff that you've been through is in that soil. So the plant is going to show up in the form of the soil that it's in. And if it's
Mm.
unhealthy soil, the plant will be healthy, no matter how good the seed is, no matter how hard you water it, no matter how much sun it gets, no matter the right conditions. If that soil is off, if it's not treated, if it's not tended to, then the plant will still suffer. And that's what happens with a lot of people who just bury stuff. They got all kind of dead stuff in their soil, and because of that, they are really setting themselves up for failure.
I I can really relate to that, because I think that going through everything that I had went through in my past and past relationships, even though like I went through the steps necessary to heal, therapy, all of that good
Yeah.
stuff, somehow I kind of bury some stuff deep
Mm.
within. And then like something will happen that is a trigger. And in the past, I couldn't verbalize what is a trigger to me. Now I easily will say, I'll be like, oh, you know what? That's a trigger right there. I just
A
want you to
whole
be
trigger.
aware of it. That is a trigger for me. And that's me communicating. And my life is so much better now. I
It's
do that with
so much better,
friends, my
right? Yeah.
partner, my children, because they're adults,
Yes.
everyone. But I do believe that I agree that healing has no ending. You have your ups and downs, and I really didn't realize that until I lost my dad last
Mm.
almost 2 years now, and I went
Mm.
through that grieving process, and then I'm like, grieving is like healing, because I had those moments. I had that moment of denial, the moment of I don't even care no more, whatever. I was up and down for a whole year.
Yeah.
It's like it's a steady pace, but I had my moments of meltdowns,
Mm.
and then I had my moments of love and laughter and everything, because I'm remembering memories, but it's fluctuating constantly.
Yeah. Constantly. No, seriously, it is constantly, and it's a beautiful thing that we experience. See, contrast is how I say that, the ups and downs. So in contrast, we experience life. You don't know the power of light until you're in darkness. You don't know what love is until you experience true fear. You don't know what peace is until you're stressed out. Contrast offers an appreciation and gratitude
Mm.
for the opposite. It understands that life is the yin and yang, it's the ebb and flow, it's the give and take, it's the stopping and starting, and that's okay. All of it is a beautiful part of life. In the beginning, God created the earth, and before there was light, God, there was darkness, and God accepted. This is the first step in self healing, to start your self healing journey, is to accept your darkness, to accept the void, to accept what's missing, to accept what's not there, to accept what you thought would be there but it's not, to accept how things turned out, to accept the way things are. Acceptance is a huge part of beginning any journey. You have to, in fact, to get anywhere, if you put in destination, if you put in a final destination you're trying to navigate to, you have to give your app the initial destination of where you are, to route the destination to where you're going. And so that's acceptance. It is saying, this is where I am. This is the truth of where I am. And there's nothing wrong with being where you are as long as you are aiming to where you want to be. And anywhere on that destination is a great place because it's closer to the destination than you were before. And that's what healing is. It's just always getting closer to the version of yourself that you know you can be, that you desire to be, that you feel within yourself that you deserve to be. And that's a magnificent and splendid thing, that if anyone just wants to just take one step is an amazing one. Think about when you were a baby and your parents were so proud of you just taking that one step. They were still holding your hand, but just taking that one step that showed that you had some strength was an amazing feat. They were so proud. Be that way with yourself. And life is just more and more strength that you gain to walk on your own.
What would you tell someone right now that is really struggling with their inner wholeness? They're struggling with acceptance. They're struggling with, because along with acceptance to me is accountability.
Yeah.
Once I do agree, you have to accept everything about you, how you became, what you're becoming, but also take accountability for what had happened.
Yeah.
And me being a domestic violence survivor, I still had to take accountability for my part in everything too, in order for that piece of healing to begin.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone that's just struggling right now with trying to accept who they are?
So I will say what Jesus said to the woman at the well, when she was a woman who had had 6 husbands, and the one she was with was not her own. And she was coming to the well in the middle of the day when nobody came, because it was the hottest time of the day. People came at the beginning and the end of the day to draw water. But she did that because she was so ashamed of who she was. She didn't want anybody to see her or encounter her. And that shame kept her isolated and feeling depressed. And Jesus simply said to her, I have water that will leave you in a state where you will never thirst again. It's finding a space where you understand that what you really need is not more sex. What you really need is not to beat up on yourself, because that's not what Jesus made her think about. It's accepting that you need something bigger. And it's now asking, like she said, like she asked Jesus, well, how do I get this water? And that level of curiosity about how can I be different is what's going to lead you on the path to your healing. If you never ask, if you think that you just are what you are, that you're a hoe and that you'll always be a hoe, and that's the scarlet letter that's going to be attached to your life, and what's the point of changing or trying something different, then you'll always be in that situation. But the moment that you offer the question, how can I find that living water? How can I be changed? How can I not thirst anymore? How can I not be thirsty? then that's when you start the path to your healing. So not accepting where you've been and what you've done and beating up on yourself. Remembering that you got to be kind and gentle to yourself. You got to be loving to yourself and accept that. Final piece here. Same thing with a baby. When a baby poops its pants or falls down and breaks something or hits something, we lovingly clean it up, fix it, heal it. Nobody's saying you should know better. And life is a lot like that. There's things that you just didn't know. There's things that you just hadn't experienced. And you got to be just as gentle and loving with yourself as you were with your parents were, or the guardians were with your baby self. Understanding that the only reason you're not doing better is often because you didn't know better, or that you didn't believe you could. And now that you have that question of, maybe I can be better, maybe I can do different, maybe I can gain a little bit more strength in this area, now you have great possibilities and probabilities of changing your life.
Guys, that is so deep. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of this wisdom that you have bestowed on us today. Let people know where they can find you, especially purchase this book and all of your books. Drop all of your contact information.
Absolutely. So I'm Byron Jamal, the Love Guru. I'm easy to find, as love should be, at Byron Jamal or at byronjamal.com. I'm on most social media, from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn even. I do a little funny stuff with TikTok and on YouTube. You can find me, like I said, very easily. I just want to leave one last word of wisdom to just make sure you keep a balanced life in the three wards of your life: your inward, which is self-love; your upward, which is your connection to the divine; and your outward, which is your relationships. Finding balance and not being too heavy in any one way is how you have true peace, joy, and happiness, and find the purpose that fits and the love you deserve.
Thank you so much. And I usually do a love potion of the day, but you did it already. So I don't think I have anything more to add to that. I can say that everyone just stay true to yourself. I think that's the most happiest place that you can be at, is just
Yeah.
being honest with yourself, stay true to yourself, love on yourself. Like, thank you again for joining me today. This was an exciting first show. I've been gone for a couple of months, but I'm back. I'm
Welcome
ready.
back.
Yes.
I'm glad to be your first guest of the new season here.
Yes, I'm so excited. For anyone that is watching, if you do want to be a guest on the show, please email me at letstalklove5@gmail.com. You can also reach out on my IG page, let's dot talk love, and also Facebook, Let's Talk Love. Again, wonderful having you, Mr. Brian. I'm looking forward to another book. I know you're not ending this cycle, so I'm gonna just look forward. I'm definitely
We'll
gonna
see. We'll see. All right.
yeah, you're going to any events coming up? Are you talking somewhere?
So I have a lot of things that I'm working on kind of quietly. I just released the book kind of quietly because I have a card game coming out with it called The Biggest Hoe. And so
Oh,
it's going to be a
okay.
fun and interactive way for people to bring in strangers or friends and begin to have the conversation about sex and sexuality. It's an amazing game. I call it Sexy Uno. It's basically a great play on that and allows people to normalize sex and sexual situations so that everyone feels more comfortable by the end
So this
talking about
game, like, so you answering little questions, you doing stuff, because I
all
did.
of the above. All of
Oh,
the above.
I need that too. Because I put my own little twist on my Uno, so
Hey,
that's
you
exciting.
don't even have to do it no more. We got the game for you. Don't worry.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for just changing everyone's perspective on sex and love, because it do go hand in hand.
Yes, my
So
pleasure. And I'm glad to be on with you as well. And keep doing what you're doing. It's so necessary to have these conversations.
no, I love bringing these deep conversations. That's what I do. So tune in next Sunday, y'all, as I bring on another special guest. I ain't going to drop that bomb yet, but just keep your notifications on. Look out for events. I am going to do a face-to-face speed date, and I did a virtual one Valentine's Day weekend. So now I'm going to do a face-to-face one because everybody is asking when the next one is. So got that in the works. So just keep on the lookout for everything. And remember, spread love, no hate. Peace. Thank you.
Peace. Take care.